So first game is against Vincent Brattin. He's from a chess family. His brother, he plays chess. His brother Brian plays chess. And his dad is famous in Michigan chess folklore, J.D. Brattin. J.D. Brattin was an expert. Vincent was an A player expert. And Brian, his brother, was B player, A player, I guess. Probably B player. And Vincent and Brian don't play chess anymore, and the dad passed away a long time ago. And this game was in '84. So I was, in '84, I was, I guess, like 2,200 U.S. chess rating, and Bratton's probably like 1950, 2000 is my guess. And we got to this endgame. I mean, I would call it an end game. You could call it a middle game if you want. Looks more like an end game. Mm-hmm. But, okay.
Experts 2000 rated. Mm-hmm. Gallus.
What's an IG reel? Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
What's Instagram?
That's pretty good, Farty Party.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we have a symmetrical pawn structure, and black has two obvious advantages. And since Karen's here for this lecture, usually she's out partying, like tonight. She'll be out partying all night. We'll ask Karen, what are the two advantages that black has in this symmetrical pawn structure kind of position?
Well, they have the two bishops.
Two bishops is one of the advantages.
They have control of the open file.
And control of the open file. So I have the D file, and I have two bishops. And you might say, well, that's good, but the pawn structure is symmetrical, and it's equal material, and I don't have any obvious threats. I can't, like, do stuff. Mm-hmm. But you can see the evaluation of the engine is more than +1 for black. Thank you, SC Cowell, for the sub.
Yay, thank you, SC Cowell. How's it going?
Okay, so my opponent put it in H3, giving himself some luft. I played bishop E4 because I wanted to take his knight and ruin his pawn structure. Mm-hmm. He didn't let me. Now, this is a very interesting position, and the engine plays differently than I do. Okay, so I played sort of a boring move. The engine actually takes the knight.
I was wondering about that.
Right, and that's actually interesting. Take. Rook E1 looks just good for white. Mm-hmm. I have two pieces for rook, but I'm going to lose a piece.
Right.
But the engine likes black, if black plays very specifically. F5, must play F3, never play F3. Bishop H4, we must play F takes E4, otherwise the bishop can escape. Takes, and this rook ending, the engine thinks is winning for black because of my rook on the 7th and the fact that I'm going to be up a pawn. Mm-hmm. Okay, pretty complicated. I'm guessing, I don't remember, it was 1984, but I'm guessing I didn't look at F5, bishop here, takes, and evaluate that. I wanted to play a more simple way. Sort of like, you sang, Simple Man, it's karaoke.
Hey, Squang.
I never thought much of this song, Simple Man. However, I like it more than I used to, not because Karen sings it, although that does help, because there's a Rick and Morty episode, my favorite episode, and in that episode, there's a candy bar called Simple Rick's. So I like Simple Man now.
I don't sing it often.
All right, so bishop D3 attacking his rook. He moved his rook. Okay, and now I play king F8. I want to walk my king up and get my king active because it's an endgame, and this defends my bishop and prepares for my king to walk up later after we trade some pieces. Mm-hmm. But the king's simply better on F8 than G8. You're trying to improve your pieces. He played knight F3. That's fine. Bishop F6. Now the engine thinks I'm only half a pawn better. Rook D1, doesn't like that move very much, because instead of challenging the file, which I'm always going to have, he could have his own file, Like he could have played bishop f4. Then he has his own file, and then my king can't ever walk up. So this move's inaccurate. It's inelegant. I played king e7, moving my king up. He played knight e1. Knight e1 is a pretty bad move. It puts the knight on a bad square, and it doesn't do anything about my king walking up. And of course, it seems like White's going to trade rooks by forcing my bishop to move, or by me keeping my bishop there, and would trade everything. The more rooks that are traded, the better my king is, because his king's no good. His king's not coming up, and doing anything. So if my king can walk up the board, that's very safe if there's no rooks on the board. So knight e1's not a good move. This increases my advantage. Bishop c4. Notice I'm putting pressure on the a pawn, because his rook is defending his other rook and his a pawn. And if he plays b3, then this bishop's looking pretty good. Obviously, he can't play b3 here. His rook is hanging on d1. So the engine wants to play a move that would be very hard for a human to play. It wants to play rook dc1, which is weird. He plays rook e1, rook d1, rook c1. But that's not why he played knight e1. He wanted to take. I take with the bishop. And now my king is looking good. And his knight on e1 is pretty passive. And his rook is passive defending his pawn. He played a3, which is a very bad move. Now, before I was saying this move is good, this move is okay, this move is bad, and you guys were nodding along and not donating. That's what you were doing. You were doing what you do, and I do what I do. Okay, now, some moves are bad and some moves are very bad. A3 is very bad. So if a very strong player was here, Magnus, Hikaru, Wesley, other players, and they saw A3, they'd never been so mad. To you guys, if I say A3 is a mistake, you're like, yeah, right. You literally don't care. But if you're a top grandmaster, you feel bad when you see A3. You're like, I don't want to watch this game anymore because that guy's not good. A3 puts all of his pawns on dark squares, which is really good for my white squared bishop. My white squared bishop can infiltrate. He doesn't have a white squared bishop, so it makes his bishop worse. It makes my bishop better. If he's going to move his A pawn, which I don't recommend, then he should play A4. That way he can try to play A5 and activate his rook. A3 doesn't activate his rook. It just lets my bishop sit on B3 forever. It's a big hole. And it's a very poor move, A3. This gives me a winning advantage, I would say. Okay, I played bishop B3. He played king F1. I moved my king up the board. He played knight F3. He probably wants to play knight D2 and kick out my bishop. And I played king D5. Engine approved. He can't play rook D1 and skewer because my bishop controls D1. So I just want to walk my king up here. That's what I want to do. So he's forced to play knight D2, which he does. I play bishop C4 check. I'm hoping that he takes. And this is actually very funny. I always tell Karen, move your king up in the endgame. And then she says, no, I'm going to study poker. And then she has king queen and she raises and wins the pot. I saw it. I saw it today. Now, this is how important it is to have your active king. Mm-hmm. Equal material, symmetrical pawn structure, no threats. And the engine says I'm plus 3.33 if he plays good. If he doesn't play good, then I'm more. Because of the king position. If my king was on F8 and his king was on B5, probably white's better because he has a king and I don't. So this is so bad that my opponent, who's not the highest rated player in the country, he still didn't take that bishop. He's not letting my king come in. So he played king E1, and now he's threatening to castle.
Hey, so in general, when is it?
You have to ask more questions.
When is it safe? Like I struggle with when I can get my king going. When the queens come off, I know it depends.
It always depends.
All right.
And sometimes you're wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I get my king going, and then like you shouldn't have. And when I say you, I mean grandmasters. But the fewer pieces that are on the board, the better your king is to move up. Okay. I played bishop to d3 because I like my bishop. He played rook d1, which seems pretty clear. Get his rook here. And I got my king out of the way, as they say in the hip-hop song. Get out the way. Move, move. He played g3. This is another poor move. I don't see the point of g3. So it seems like my opponent's doing the opposite of what you should do in the endgame, which is a common... I see a lot of low-rated players doing this. They play with a defensive mindset, especially when they're playing a higher-rated player. And he figured if all his pawns are on dark squares, they're safe. That way my white square bishop can't take them. The problem is my white square bishop can't be thwarted. My white square bishop rules the day. Also, it seizes the day. Rook e8, pinning his bishop. Engine likes that. Knight f1, too passive. c4. This makes a3 look pretty silly because now my king can come in. And my bishop is ensconced. Ensconced. Also, I have a question. What does ensconced mean?
What does it mean?
Do you know why I'm asking you that?
No.
Remember the movie last night?
Yeah.
She said she was ensconced in the letter, and then he said, what does that mean?
Oh, I didn't remember.
In his
that.
response, he's like, what's ensconced? Yeah.
Ensconced, you're
I said that
buried in,
I said I was ensconced there.
comfortably settled in.
Did you like that? My bishop's ensconced?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We saw a very good movie last night. You guys wouldn't like it because it was good. There was no explosions. Now, there was a couple of deaths, but they weren't murders, so you wouldn't like that. But,
That was really good.
Yeah, it was called The Banshee of the Inisherin, something like that. Inisherin is a fictional island in Ireland. Fictional. And it had Colin Farrell and my guy. Who's my guy? Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah.
Brendan Gleeson is like equal at acting ability to what's his name? The guy in Succession, the old guy, the father.
I can't remember his name.
That.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, they're about equal, but the other guy's more famous because of Succession. But Brendan Gleeson and him are like that, son. Brian Cox, thank you. The Banshees of Inisherin. Yeah. Brendan Gleeson's always good. And he was really good, like in this part. It was made for him. And Colin Farrell was good. Then, if you remember Mike Ehrmantraut from Better Call Saul and from what's the show before that?
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. The woman who plays his daughter, Carrie Condon, she's in the movie also. But she gets to use her Irish accent in this one. And the other one, she can't use it because she's supposed to be from, Albuquerque. So
We watched it at North Point Mall Theater.
AMC Theater.
AMC. Seemed like an art film in a lot of ways.
It is. They released it in like 4 theaters, then in 10, then eventually got wide release.
Oh, okay.
They weren't going to wide release it. But it's basically a movie that wouldn't get a full release, as that's what she said. However, it did because of Colin Farrell. I mean, Colin Farrell give it a wide release. The movie itself is like an artsy kind of movie, so you guys aren't allowed to see it.
Now let's get back to the game.
Yeah. Yes, it's the same director as In Bruges and the same actors. Okay, my opponent played King D2, which is correct. I played King B5. He played King C1. I told you he was going to castle. I played Bishop E5. He retreated his bishop ostensibly to play knight e3. Bishop d6, I want to go to c5. And the thing is, he doesn't have any counterplay. So if two engines are playing, there's two possibilities. Black wins in 100 moves, or it's a draw, because the engine says I'm up 1.1 or 1.2. But if a human is playing, the human can't play white here. An engine can play white, but a human, like, when there's no legal moves, and there's only like one move that's reasonable, eventually, and by eventually, it wasn't eventually. So this game ended in 6 moves. If an engine was playing, white would defend and defend and defend and find some tricky defense. But when a human's playing white and there's no legal moves, like, it's hard to suggest a move here for white. The king has no legal moves. You can't move these pawns. The bishop can't move because this is attacked. If the knight moves, my rook comes to e2. So the engine says rook e1 is the only move. My opponent played rook e1. Now that coming in here doesn't work, I played another attack. I played king c6. So now when I get rid of the knight or he moves it, my king can walk in here and I win. He played knight d1, which is a blunder. He basically has to chill. But this was in 1984 and there was no Netflix. Okay, you know what there was? What was there?
In 1984?
Mm-hmm.
For what? For watching movies?
No, yeah, the Blockbuster.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible. So there was no Netflix and chill, so he didn't chill. The engine says he should play a4 or knight c2. Knight d1's just losing. I trade rooks, and I walk in with my king. And you can't stop me from walking in. As Christopher once said, I'm walking here. Now the engine says f3 is the best move, but it says I'm still winning. He played king d2. I walked in some more. He played f4, which is a ridiculous move. I played king f3. And this is quite funny. Equal material, symmetrical pawn structure, but I'm +4. Because everything I have is better than everything he has. This is domination. This is my specialty.
So wait, now why was the f4 so bad?
f4 weakens e3, so if his knight moves, then bishop, well, he can't move his knight.
Okay.
Yeah, it lets my king walk in and take all his pawns. Yeah, so I have like bishop g1 to here, and I have bishop f1, and so forth. He played g4, I took his pawn, and he resigned, which was correct. So I didn't do very much. I just slowly improved my position. And even though I do that as an old man, you've seen me play a lot of endgames, you know, on the stream, and I don't do very much, and eventually I win. That's the way I always played endgames, was slowly improve. Endgame was always probably the best part of my game, because I improve my pieces, and I stop my opponent from improving theirs. And that ending was better for me, but it was going from like 0.5 to 1.1. It was, and then eventually, when he was down to just a few good moves or none, then he totally collapsed. And you can see his position's worse than it was when we started. Like, all of his pieces are worse, and my pieces are ensconced in velvet. What show?
Seinfeld.
Yeah. Who wants to be ensconced in velvet?
George.
Very good.
Yeah, I don't know. Right there.
What's so bad with knight f2? You mean in the final position? In the final position, resigns. Well, he's going to lose all of his pawns. He doesn't have any counterplays. I just go take them. The engine says I'm only +4, but the engine's wrong. If you had a better engine, it would say more. This is Stockfish 15 depth